Okay, in this video, we want to create an interior elevation of our house on the hill and then place it on its own sheet. So right now I'm looking at the sheet that we previously created of a couple of our floor plans, a couple of the different level floor plans on their sheet. And in particular, I'm looking at the O2 entry level floor plan, and I can actually see the walls of the level below. And there's probably a couple of reasons why that's the case. Let's fix that. Let's get rid of those walls so we're not seeing them in the 02 entry level plan. And then we'll go ahead and create our interior elevation. Remember when we put our floor in, we got a window that came up that gave us an alert saying, do we want walls that come up to this floor's level to attach to the underside of the floor? And I told you, in general, I will tell the computer no, because I don't want the exterior walls. If those exterior walls stop at a given level, I don't want those exterior walls joining up with the underside of my floor slab and giving the exterior of my building an incorrect appearance. So the first thing we're going to try is joining these level 1 walls up to the underside of the floor slab on level 2. So let me just show you how to do that. And to do that, we're actually going to go to a ceiling plan view because we want to see both the walls that need to join to the floor slab above and the floor slab above itself. This is the same command that we use to join our exterior walls to our roof. So let's scroll on our project browser in the lower left hand corner of our screen. Let's scroll to the category ceiling plans, and I want to go to the ceiling plan for 01 lower level. So I'm down here in the lower left hand corner. I double click on ceiling plan 01 lower level, and here I can see both the interior walls and the floor slab above that these walls need to join to. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select all of these interior walls, and then I'm going to use that join at top command. Same command that we used to join our exterior walls to our roof. So I'm simply going to select one of these walls with my mouse. I hold down the control button, and I can select all the other walls that need to join up with it. Once these walls have been selected, I can go up here to attach top base, click it, and then click the edge of the floor slab above. Now if I grab my section flag and pull it over and just kind of pull it in this space and then hit right click on it and hit go to view, I can see here are my walls. They now terminate at the underside of the floor slab here. So that's a quick and easy way to have your floors join up with your floor slab, and hopefully we don't see them through our floor plan. Let's now scroll over in our lower left hand project browser. Let's go to the floor plan for 02 entry level and double click on it. We still see the walls below. So even though we've got the walls modeled correctly, they're joining up to the underside of the floor slab above, we're still seeing them, and we really don't want to see them in this view. Another possible cause of why we're seeing that is if we go over here to where it says floor plan, the properties of the floor plan, scroll down and look for a category called underlay. So we're just going to scroll down here. I can even push the button here. Underlay. And it right now by default it has the level below. Underlay 01 lower level. So this is telling the computer we're doing the floor plan for 02 entry level, but slide under there an underlayment of the 01 lower level plan. If we click on this box right here and go to the drop down menu, just tell it none. If we hit none and hit apply, now there's no underlay. Now we simply don't see the walls below. This is looking the way we want it to look. If we now, in our project browser, scroll down to our sheet files, Sheets All, and double click on A101, you can see that our plan has automatically updated. We no longer see those walls below. In some cases, you might want to see those walls below for whatever reason, but normally you don't. So I'm just going to take those out. Okay, at this point, let's go ahead and create an interior elevation, and then we'll create a new sheet for it and put it on the sheet. So I want you to scroll up here in the project browser, Let's go to the floor plan for, let's just do 02 entry level. Double click on the floor plan for 02 entry level. I want to put an elevation in here looking in this direction, looking from this room towards these 3 windows. That's what I want to create. So in the plan, you have to put interior elevations or exterior elevations in a plan view. So let's go up to the top of our screen, go to the category called View. Remember, View pertains to anything that you're really seeing. Any kind of view-related stuff will be found under this tab. There's the section flag right there when we put our sections in. This time we're going to go to Elevation, and just click on Elevation. And look at this, one of these pointy cameras. They're kind of ugly looking. We'll fix that in a second here. But this pointy camera attaches to my cursor, and as I get close to walls, Revit is trying to guess what I want to see. It may or may not guess correctly. So I'm just going to put my elevation right here in the room, pointing in the wrong direction, because I'm going to show you how to fix it. So I've brought my elevation in. I'm going to click it. Then I'm going to click on Modify up here. That gets me to stop putting in interior elevations. Now I can go back to this box, and if I click the box itself, elevation arrows in all 4 directions show up. And all I have to do is uncheck the ones that I don't want to see, and when this alert comes up, View Elevation 1A will be deleted, I just hit OK. I'm OK with that elevation going away. I want to be looking towards these windows, so I will put a check mark in this box. And then just click in the white area. Now I've got my elevation camera pointing in the correct direction. Okay. If I click on the triangle itself, the little pointer, what comes up is a blue line that represents exactly where I, the observer, am standing in the room. So this blue line by default comes up in the middle of my observation elevation camera here. I can hold down my mouse button and actually move the position of where I, the observer, am. And you can use this if there's pieces of furniture or things that you want to get around and not show. So you can change where your observational position is. I'm fine being right here. Also make note of this dashed in box. This dashed in box indicates how far you are seeing into the view. So if you want to stretch how far you're seeing, if you want to encompass more, you can stretch it that way. If you want your vision to stop short for whatever reason, maybe there's furniture or a countertop or something over in this area that you don't want to see or you don't want to show in this view, you've got the ability to control how far into the view you're seeing. So if you want to see the whole wall here, if you want to see all 3 windows, I would suggest pulling this box past whatever it is that you want to see. So you've got 2 things you can control here, where you, the observer, are standing and how far into that view you're actually seeing. I'm happy with these parameters here, so I'm going to click in the white area and those go away. Now let's see if we can change the appearance of this. I don't like how this is looking. I think we can just click on this box here and then go over to our properties menu, and if we go to the drop down, we've got some somewhere here we've got some here it is. We can change the appearance of the thing. So if we go to the drop down menu, there's building elevation, which is this kind of clunky looking thing. Sometimes you just might be fine with an arrow that looks like that. If you want something a little more refined looking, you can click on it, click the drop down menu, and opt for interior elevation. And it's the same command, only this time it's a circle with a pointer. And again, you could click on this circle and turn on as many of these interior elevations as you want. You'll see that alongside them, the views show up. So I'm going to click on this circle. I'm going to turn off a bunch of these if I can. Let's go to the circle here. Just try and click on the... I may have to, I'm having a tough time grabbing the edge of the thing, so maybe I'll just take it back to here. There we go. And I'm going to turn off these views. There we go. Now I can click on this and change it back to the interior elevation. What I did was, if you're having a problem actually grabbing the camera itself as opposed to the pointers, just put your cursor near the edge of it and hit tab a couple of times until the actual box or circle shows up as opposed to the arrows pointing in the direction that you're looking in. Right now, by default, since Revit has nothing else to call this interior elevation, it's calling it elevation 1C. That will change in a moment here. To actually see the elevation, go right-click on the pointer here and hit Go to Elevation View. And this is what we're looking at here. This view, the box around our view is the limits of our elevation. So our elevation stops at the inside face of this wall. It stops at the inside face of this wall. It stops at the ceiling, and really our elevation should stop at the floor. It looks like it's actually going past the floor here. So let's click on this box here and just pull this up. We want this elevation to terminate at the floor like that. When we're in the room, an elevation is different from a section because an elevation is simply your view within a space. Your view stops at the ceiling and at the right wall and at the left wall and at the floor. You don't have x-ray vision, so you will not cut through a wall here. You will not cut through the wall here. You will not cut through the floor. So an elevation is simply your view into a room limited by those objects that stop what you're seeing, that contain your view. You could, in theory, click on this and pull this across, and now we're cutting through the door, but that's not an elevation. This now becomes a section drawing. So don't make that mistake. Limit your view to what you're actually seeing in the room. The whole purpose of an elevation is just to be used as a guide for the contractor so they know as they're building this room what they're constructing looks like what you have in mind. So we don't ever want to cut through floors or ceilings or walls. My elevation here, my text is kind of interfering with it, so we can fix that. If I wheel out just a little bit, click on this level here, and then grab the little knob here, I can just pull that clear. Another thing you can do with the text is you can click here, and there's a little elbow joint. If you click on the elbow joint, it gets it out of the way, and now we can click and grab these knobs. So if you ever find that there's a whole lot of information on your page and you just need to get text out of the way, like this thing, you can always use that elbow joint to really reposition where it needs to go. If you want to put it back where it was, just bring it down to the level until it clicks. So this is an interior elevation. Make sure when you do your elevations that you go down here at the bottom of your screen, and for your detail level, set detail level for fine. We want absolutely as much information as we can get in our interior elevation drawing. So always set your detail level for fine. I would recommend setting detail level for fine regardless of what views you're showing. You always want to show as much information as you can get. Let's put in a couple of pieces of information here. Elevations, I tend to put any kind of text that explains something going on here I might want to call out in this elevation. Let's just say that if I click on this window here, I can see over here that our sill height is 3 feet. Let's just call that out. Maybe we need to let the contractor know that these windows, their sill height is 3 feet above the finished floor. So I'm going to put in a little piece of text here. I'm going to go up to my these commands at the top of the screen, and I'm going to go here to annotate. Remember, text is a form of annotation. Under annotate, go over here to text, click on text, and it's really easy to put in text with a leader arrow. You can go over here and kind of indicate how you want your text to be. If you want text with no arrow, if you want text with a simple straight segment arrow, if you want a bend and an angled elbow to your arrow, or just a curving arrow, you've got those options. I always like to put a bend in it, an angular bend. Here you can kind of control how if there's a left margin or a right margin, that sort of thing. Or actually, this controls the placement of the arrow with regard to your text. If you want the arrow to align with the top line of text, centered on your text, or with your bottom line of your text, I'll go for align with the top line of my text. And then this is left margin, right margin, or centered. Once you've done that, when you click, the first thing you're going to click is the location of your arrowhead. So click, and then just pull off to the side. The second click will determine where your elbow is. So click there, pull to the side, and your third click determines where text starts. So let's type in something like sill height 3 feet dash 0 inches. And then we'll click on the modify button. And you can see our text is huge. This text is really large. We need something that works a little better with our drawing. We don't want to overwhelm our drawing. So if we click on the text now, having selected the modify button here, if we click on our text, you can see that the text selected is 1/4 inch Arial. That means regardless of the scale of my drawing, this text will always print on your sheet of paper at 1/4 inch tall. In this case, it's overwhelming my drawing, so I'm going to see if I can make this text 1/8 inch tall, so it looks a little better. So I'm going to go over here to my properties menu. I'm going to go to the drop down, and I've got just two choices: 1/4 inch Arial or 3/32 of an inch Arial. If I click on 3/32 of an inch Arial, that looks okay. Usually I like text that's about 1/8 of an inch. So let's do this. Let's create text that is 1/8 of an inch using the Arial font. And to do this, I'm now going to hit the Edit Type button, and this window comes up. These are all the properties that pertain to text that is 3/32 of an inch high. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to hit duplicate, because we're going to change some of these parameters here. If we don't hit duplicate, it will change the height of this 332 Arial, and the name of the text will no longer match up with the size of the text. So hit duplicate, and it's going to call it 332 inch Arial 2. That's fine. We're going to hit OK. Now we're going to rename it, and we want to call this 1/8 of an inch Arial, and take off the number 2. And we'll hit OK. And then we're going to go down here where it says text size, and we're going to change it from 3/32 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch. And now we'll hit OK. And now we've created a new text type. If we go to our drop-down menu, we now have 3 options: 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch, or 3/32 of an inch. Select 1/8 of an inch, and look over here. Our text is now 1/8 of an inch tall. It kind of matches up with the size of our text, calling out what level we're on. If I wanted to add a second piece of text, typically what I'll do is simply copy the first piece of text and bring it down, reposition the arrow, and change the text. That way my leader arrow and my elbow remain the same. So I might just do this. If I take this, click on this piece of text, click on copy, click anywhere in the white and pull it down, I now have a second piece of text with a horizontal leader segment and an elbow that match up. Now I can click on modify, double click on the text itself, and call out something else. I could type in here GYP BD, TYP, period. And then click on the white area. This is gypsum board typical. And I can grab the arrowhead and pull that down like that, and then click in the white area. So now I've got 2 pieces of text. They're aligned. The length of their horizontal segments of their leader arrows are the same. Their elbows are in the same position, but they're calling out 2 different things. That's typically, if I get one piece of text with a leader arrow and I'm happy with how it looks, that's how I'll do subsequent pieces of text. Just copy the first one and then modify it. Incidentally, you'll notice I'm not using capital letters. Sometimes you might want to capitalize your text. In other cases, maybe you capitalize the first word on a line, or in this case, I'm not capitalizing anything. It all depends on what you want it to look like and kind of what the convention at the design firm you're working, how they tend to do it is. What we're seeing here is gyp board, typical. This just says that gypsum board is sheetrock or drywall. I'm pointing to this wall here. Typical simply means this is the typical. Typical just implies this is the typical condition. So sometimes you can simply point out a condition one time and put tip on there, which says this is the typical condition. Unless you note it otherwise, this is what the walls are made of, gypboard. Okay, one other thing that I put in my interior elevations is I always put in a dimension showing how high the ceiling is. You don't really need to dimension much else in an interior elevation unless you've got some out of the ordinary piece of equipment or furniture going on here. And then you might want to show some sort of dimension. Otherwise, the dimensions of the space itself are show on your floor plan. So the only other thing that would not show on your floor plan would be the height of your ceiling. So let's always include that in our interior elevations. So I'm going to go up here to this command, which is aligned dimension. It's also found right over here. And if we click on align dimension, oh, when this comes up, again, save your project. Save it whenever it asks you to save it. I'm just going to snap from, I want to zoom in. I want to dimension the ceiling, not necessarily a light fixture. You can see a light fixture is showing up right there. I don't want to dimension to that. I want to dimension to the ceiling itself. So I'm going to click on the ceiling surface and then wheel out a little bit, wheel in, and then click to the floor and then pull it out to the side, and I just kind of backtrack on myself to tell the computer I'm done adding dimensions. Otherwise, I could continue to add more dimensions. So I backtrack on myself, and I pull the dimension clear of the drawing, and just click. And now I hit modify, and now I've got a nice, easy to understand, clear interior elevation of this particular space. Now let's put it on a sheet. Let's go down to our project browser, and we're going to scroll down. And you can see under elevations, building elevations, there's another category called elevations, interior elevations. If I hit the plus next to it, there's the elevation that we've just created. Revit has assigned it the name 1C. We can change that in a minute here. But let's keep scrolling down. That's where we find this drawing. That's where if we need to come back to this drawing, that's where it's located. Keep scrolling down to sheets, parentheses, all. This time, go to the sheet you just created, A101, and right-click on it and choose, I'm sorry. Go to Sheets, parentheses, all. Right-click on Sheets, parentheses, all, and opt for New Sheet. 11 by 17 horizontal, that's the title block we used last time. We're going to use that again this time. Hit OK. Here's a new sheet, and this one is A102. If A101 was our first sheet, A102 is our second sheet. You can go here where it says unnamed, double-click on it, and call it interior elevations and hit enter. This time we're going to wheel out a little bit. We'll pull in that interior elevation we just created. So scroll up here to elevation 1-C, push down your mouse button and just drag. Don't release the mouse button yet, but just drag it onto your sheet. Typically, and then when you get it in the lower right hand corner, click it there and then hit modify. Typically, when you put drawings on sheets, you'll do the lower right hand corner is where you'll put your first drawing. Then the second drawing will go above it. The third drawing will go above that. Then the fourth drawing will show up here to the left of your first drawing. Then fifth, then sixth, then seventh, then eighth, and then ninth. That's just the convention. That's how it's typically done. I think the idea is the prime, most important drawings get put over in this corner here, because these sheets are stapled together along this edge and it's just easier to see those. It's just kind of a convention. Whatever design firm you end up working at will have their own rules. Okay, here we go. There it is at 1/8 of an inch. That's the default scale that it comes in at, and that's how it looks right now. If you needed that drawing to be bigger, let's say that you don't need to put a ton of elevations on this sheet and you've got the room to make these drawings larger, here's how you do that. Just right-click on your illustration, hit Activate View, come over here where it says Elevation Interior Elevations, and go to View Scale, and just change it. You might change it from 1/8 of an inch to maybe 3/8 of an inch. Let's see if that's an option here. There it is, 3/8 of an inch equals a foot. If we hit that and then hit Apply, you can see we've got a much larger drawing. Now I can right-click and say Deactivate View. And again, I'm gonna position the drawing on the page first. At this scale, I could right-click and say Activate View, and I could even bring this in. If I need to tighten up my drawing a little bit, I can bring that in, hit Deactivate View, and I could kind of position this on the page the way I want. Click on the white area, and now I can click on the title of the drawing and just kind of move that up to where it needs to go, and then click. If I scroll in, you can see the scale automatically changes to match the scale of the drawings. That's one less thing you need to worry about. And right now it's called elevation 1-C. I think we can change that if we wanted to. If you scroll on your project browser in the lower left hand corner here to O2 floor plan for O2 entry level, there it is, A1. Okay, it's called elevation 1C. I think we can rename this. Let's just oops. Let's see if we can rename it. I'm sorry. We'll scroll down here to interior elevations and see if we can rename it there. Where it says elevation 1C, let's right click on it and hit rename, and we'll just call it elevation 1 and hit OK. Now let's go to our sheet, A102, double click on that, and it's now renamed here elevation 1. So all this stuff is very easy to change if you need to. Okay, that's it for doing interior elevations. Go ahead and hit Control plus S, save your work, and we'll just take it from there in the next video.